Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Stephen D. Kelley. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show. It's Thursday. It's July 20th. How about that? 7/20/2023. It's now 6:01 p.m. Welcome. The title of the show tonight, such as it is Lions and Mama Bears, or Lions and Mama Bears. In Mama Bears. All right, now, of course, this came to me a couple days ago, and a lot of times there'll be something that'll come to me. I'll be observing something, or I'll be pondering some concept or some basic human condition, and I'll get something of a spark of enlightenment, and I think, I need to talk about this, and I think, I'm going to go turn on my movie maker and do a video and post it in the group. So much trouble. I realized, I was like, well, what the hell? It's almost show day. I'll just do it for the show. So I made a meme. It says Lions and Mama Bears. Now, I'll tell you why I got to this. I'll tell you what I'm thinking. And I'll just advise you right now that a lot of the times when I do this, I observe something, a concept, and I feel like I'm having an insight, something I want to share. What I do, or at least what it seems like I'm doing, is I'm thinking out loud. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do tonight, at least for a portion of the show, is I'm going to go down that path, and I'm going to pursue these ideas, at least the basic concepts that I've been pondering. And hopefully, as I'm doing that, I'll get some sort of further insight, and together we can maybe answer some questions or observe this and come to some sort of logical conclusion. But basically, as you know, I'm a pretty mouthy person. I'm obviously very active out there in the world, talking all kinds of mad stuff about the Getty and the people, the pedophiles, and the monsters that run our government. And yeah, it does take a certain amount of balls to do that. And again, I've certainly heard enough people say, well, you're trained in weapons and you're this and that, CIA, yada, yada, you're a psychic warrior, blah, blah, blah. That's your excuse, this and that. That's, this is the logic for why I'm, less inhibited when it comes to screaming things and saying things that other people just won't say. So the real issue here, what we're really doing is we're discussing people's inability or ability to talk about things that need to be talked about. Now, obviously, my issue is rescuing the children. Certainly, that's the main objective and focus of the Occupy the Getty mission. But at the same time, it's not just children that are being rescued. It's every single human on Earth, and it's ending a demonic cycle that's been going on for 25 million years. And so therefore it's actually rescuing all the future humans yet to be born that would have been doomed to this endless cycle of demonic slavery that we're in right now. So you would think that normal humans, at the very least, would be concerned about certain things, like their children being kidnapped and molested and murdered and eaten and all that sort of stuff. The stuff that we're trying to stop with the Occupy the Getty mission. Well, I know those of us that are in the mission, we're always wondering, why the heck are these people ignoring us? You would think that this would be the sort of thing that people would actually care about, but no, they think we're nuts. They think this is something to do with Trump, yada, yada, all that nonsense. But at the same time, when you observe just basic human interaction and what passes as normal cultural society norms, one of the things I noticed, and I know that a lot of people see this, and one of the most obvious things, of course, is the whole feminization of men and the blurring of the genders. I mean, obviously, this isn't a show about transgenders and the so-called, whatever you want, we'll just say rainbow issues, but more so, it has to do with an emasculation and a blurring and separation of the biological functions of men and women. Now, I realized after looking at this issue that what I'm talking about is not strictly the domain of one sex. It's not just strong men. There's also strong women, but the role we're talking about here could be really defined, at least illustrated very well, by this concept of lions and mama bears. Now, if you don't know, just to kind of fill in the blanks for some people, make it simple, the lion is called the king of the jungle for a reason, the king of the plains, whatever it is. He's, king of beasts, all that sort of thing. There's a reason for that. Sure, elephant can squish him, but the lion is the apex predator. It's just the way it is. Now, when it comes to a mama bear, I don't know about you, but here in North America, there's some pretty large bears. I know Russia's full of them. But you can have grizzlies, you can have brown bears, black bears, polar bears, whatever. The male is generally going to be larger than the female. And of course, let me just put it this way. When a mama bear has cubs, you do not fuck with a mama bear. If you have any wisdom in your body, brains in your head at all, you should always remember never, 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 never fuck with a mama bear. It doesn't matter who you are, or what you're carrying. You could be the biggest, baddest grizzly bear in the forest, and if you bother a mama bear or threaten her babies, you're going to be running. You're going to be climbing the trees as fast as you can to get away from that mama bear. That mama bear is going to go berserk. And it doesn't matter how big you are, that mama bear is going to rip you a new one. So if you see a baby bear in the woods, best back off. Now, why am I making this analogy? Well, again, there's two basic ways of looking at this, and that is being a protector and being a provider. Now, as humans in society, those lines have been blurred, not just from a gender basis, but from a cultural and societal basis. So as educated, civilized humans, the role of protector has been taken away. You're giving up your children to these schools for however many hours a day. You're assuming that they will be protected. So, I suppose people going there and shooting up the schools, that's kind of, that's a plan. That's to show you that, yes, this protection that you're taking for granted, it needs to be stepped up. We need guys with guns now to protect those children. And you're not allowed to have guns, so you're not going to be protecting your children. Hell, you're not schooling your children. You're certainly not protecting them while they're being schooled, obviously. So the role of protector is being taken away. Now, if you look at a lion, a male lion, typically a lion is going to have multiple females, of course. He's going to have his, whatever you want to call it, harem. thing of lions, or I'm sure there's a word for it. And he's going to make lots of cubs. Now, is he going to go out there and kill antelope and stuff and make meat for his family? He might kill this and that here and there because he's got to eat too. But for the most part, the mamas are going to be responsible to feed those babies. But Daddy Lion is going to be protecting all those mamas. The mamas are certainly going to be protecting their babies, and they'll work together. But the daddy, the big badass lion, anything that's a threat that gets near that group of lions, he's going to fuck them up. Hyenas, whatever. I'm sure the females will help, but that's his big job. That is his number one job, is being a protector. So again, the daddy bear is obviously not providing for those baby bears. That's Mama's doing that entirely. She's also protecting them with her life. Ready to take on anybody and anything, any threat. Obviously, the lion's the same way. So what happened to us? Now, certainly, back in the day, and I would say starting before, I don't know, modern civilization, I guess, with when they started living in cities, were given weapons and they had to fight. That was called the militia. The first basic armies were the men. Obviously, in Stone Age days, everybody fought. Dogs fought. Men and women fought. But eventually, it was mostly the men. It could be farmers, could be whatever. Conscripts. That was the basic army. That was not professional armies. They were still defending us. But that's whittled away now. We've got our professional armies and we have our professional police forces, and the men, you're not even allowed to say fuck in public. You'll be arrested. You don't have any say over whether or not your child wants to cut off their genitals and start calling themselves a different name, something like them or there or he or she or something. Anyway, this is being taken away. You could actually be thrown in jail now for trying to stop your child from mutilating itself permanently, for making a stupid decision based on some bullshit propaganda being handed down by some so-called educative authority that you've handed your ability to protect your child from away. You've given it up. So, anyway, I'm going to move on from this here pretty quick, but I guess the point I'm trying to make, if it isn't clear enough by now, is that this process of taking away our ability to protect our own, the ones that we biologically, historically, and humanly should be protecting, by taking that away and by forcing us to be providers, they've very easily taken the ability to provide and made it impossible. They've made it so that you've had to work most of the day to make a meager amount, to barely be able to survive and provide. And in the process of doing that, you have even less time and less ability to protect. Now, a lot of you think that this time that we're living in, this modern time that we're living in, is really something, and that we should be really proud of our advanced society. But I'll tell you this. Back during the Middle Ages, the so-called Dark Ages, when you had castles with kings and lords and all that stuff, and most people were peasants working the land under the control of some king or some lord or whatever. What was the difference between the standard of living of these two groups, these so-called elites and these so-called peasants? Well, here's the reality. The reality is the so-called peasants only worked 2 or 3 hours a day, unlike we do. And they ate the same food that the kings ate, because that's all there was. So in other words, the king's having venison, guess what? The peasants are eating venison. The king's eating potatoes, the peasants are eating potatoes. There's not a whole lot of difference. Sure, one's living in a stone castle, one's living in a mud hut, but for the most part, this concept of your basic peasant feudal type person being a slave to this elite lord of the manor castle person, it's not true. Now, that's not to say that they didn't get pressed into service and have to exchange their pitchforks for spears and become part of a militia to fend off the neighboring lord's army. But that's part of that protection thing. So the point I'm trying to make once again, is that you may think you're all that. You think you're sophisticated, and this society is all that with your cell phone and everything else, but you're not living anywhere near equally to the standard of living of the lords and kings that are ruling over you, and you're working like a slave for the right to do that. And they've completely emasculated you. They've goaded you into taking shots so that you're going to become sterile and your children will become sterile and anything masculine about you will be removed. They don't hide that. The chlorine in the water that turns your cholesterol into plaque instead of testosterone. You think that's just an accident? No, it's not. They planned that a long time ago. So, again, you can piss and moan and say that this and that, but ultimately, it's really a matter of who's got the balls to say anything. Now, I'm not saying that a woman is not capable of protecting her children. But in this situation, what I'm talking about now is basically having the guts, having the balls, having the strength to say what needs to be said. Why is any of this shit being allowed to happen? Because nobody will say what needs to be said. And they'll tell you, oh, your speech is not acceptable. The community thinks that the level of your tone is unhealthy. You're being a bully. Yeah. Why is this? Because you've allowed the pussy police to tell everybody that your toxic masculinity is offending people. So you ladies, you mama bears, what are we going to call what you got? Toxic mama bear toxicity. Anyway, so what I'm lamenting here is the fact that I'm on this pedestal, that I'm doing that, and I'm not bitching. I'm just saying it's like you people need to realize that after all these years, nobody has really done anything to stop this. They haven't had the balls, the guts, the bravery, whatever, courage to get up there and say the things that need to be said. Now, if you think you're a lion, and if you think you're a mama bear, you don't need somebody to poke you and tell you what needs to be done when something is going on in front of you that's jeopardizing your children, the future of them. You should be ready to spring into action and kill without thinking about it. Now, when I mean kill, at this point, I'm talking about open your fucking mouth and say what needs to be said. Now, today I did an interview the other day with a guy. Forbidden Knowledge was the name of the show. Anyway, it's a good show, good interview. But a couple people made some really retarded comments in the section of his rock fin or whatever it was that he used for his platform. But they said something like, I don't know what it was, some stupid thing. I don't trust CIA guys. This guy's talking about pot. He must have a dull brain, whatever, stupid shit like that. Anyway, and I said, hey, somebody needs to go in there and join that little group or whatever there and correct these people and set them straight. Defend me. Don't allow these idiots to get away with saying these things. And someone says, oh, don't let it bother you. Don't let it hurt you. I'm like, what? Bullshit. Pull your head out. Grow a pair. I can't do it. And defend me. You know, like fucking lions or mama bears, and go in there and show those people that it's not okay to show your stupidity like that in public. You need to embarrass these people. You need to show them that it's not okay anymore. It's not socially acceptable. Just because they're saying something stupid, you need to have the guts to say what needs to be said. That's what's really all about here. Pull your fucking claws out. Show your teeth. Bite those fuckers. All right? That's what I want behind me. I want fucking lions and mama bears. I want you to kill. I want you to growl and slash and rip their asses out. I want you to cut their legs off. I want you to cut their heads off. I want you to bite their fucking faces. Are you getting the message? You're my fucking pit bulls. Do you understand? I need you to be fucking lions. I need you to care about this crap. I need you to really care about this crap. Some of you do. Some of you get it. Some of you are along for the ride. Some of you work a lot harder than the others. I need you all to be passionate about this. You want to be a warrior? Act like a warrior. Don't ask me how high when I ask you to jump. You dive. Don't think about it. You already know we're going to win. You're not going to get hurt. They're not going to hurt you. We're stronger. Nobody is going to fuck with us. The sooner you guys figure that out, the sooner we're going to win this crap. And you need to do it soon. Anyway, that's the main thing. You know, I need you all to be a little more vocal. I need you all to be a little tougher. I need you not to be afraid. And I need you to be willing to pounce on the enemy, and not necessarily the enemy, but anybody that would do anything to hurt our mission. So, yeah, it's a pride of lions. It's a good word, actually. Good word only because I'm proud of you guys for being able to get us this far. But I do need you to step it up. I know that we're not here to wrestle against flesh and blood, but at the same time, you have to understand that the gift that we have, the strongest gift that we have, is the persuasiveness of our voice and our ability to convey our message upon others in a believable and easy to understand way. And that's what I need you to do. And that also means that I need you to take these idiots and you make them understand that that's not okay. And you make them figure out real quick that they're not hip for acting stupid. This is not a game. It's not a popularity contest, but at the same time, if we have to go brown shirt on you, Gestapo, whatever, at this point, that's where we're at. All right. So these little people you run into in social media that say things that try to belittle our movement or make us look stupid or just anything stupid in general, cut their feet off. Take their tongues. Chastise them so hard they don't know what hit them. Make them cry. And do it in mass. Work together. There's enough of you out there listening to me right now. You should be able to do this. It shouldn't be that hard because you know what? You could have a group with 10,000 people and maybe 20 people will say something or use an emoticon. You know how easy it is to drive the rest of those people? So if you're supposed to be leaders, act like leaders. And if you're in this mission, try to lead in the mission. And that means your ability to control the other people, to control what they say and how you react to what they say. So there's that. I need that. All right, I need to talk about the Ukraine a little bit, and I always forget to say a lot of things I want to say about the various developments that have been going on during the week, but I will talk. I'll start with something that just happened today, and that was Vladimir Putin essentially made an announcement that any ship traveling into the port of Odessa is going to be considered a vessel carrying arms into a war zone and will be treated as such. Now, basically what that means is that Lloyd's of London and the various insurance companies will no longer insure any ship sailing into the port of Odessa. And, of course, the United States and Turkey both said they will not escort any ships into the port of Odessa. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, a couple of major things happened. A, the grain deal that allowed Ukraine to move so-called food products out of the port of Odessa in whatever bulk carriers to supposedly be donated to foreign countries to feed starving people in Africa. This was the story. So there was a deal. They called it the, I don't think it was the agreement of Istanbul or something agreement. But that expired. Now, a lot of people will say that Putin pulled out of the grain deal. No, Putin did not pull out of the grain deal. It expired. But one of the things that happened, at least happened twice now, that helped him to cement not wanting to renegotiate that thing, there's actually many reasons. A, first of all, the Kerch Bridge was attacked once. And he basically said, don't do that again, and don't ship weapons into Ukraine through Odessa. Obviously, the Ukrainians did not listen. But just recently, there were ballistic missiles, large missiles, or actually I think there was a underwater drone, which was apparently British-made, that took out a small section of the Kerch Bridge. One lane going in one direction was taken out. Anyway, obviously, this is something that is very upsetting to Putin and Moscow. They're very upset about that. They said don't do it. So in response to that today, obviously, first of all, they're going to respond with large missile strikes, but at the same time, they responded with, now that there's no grain deal, we don't need to have any kind of a corridor for these ships going in and out, supposedly shipping things in. And they said that all of these ships that came in to get grain, supposedly, were filled with weapons. And they would offload these weapons in Odessa, and they would fill up with grain, but instead of going to Africa and the so-called countries that they were saying that needed it, instead they were going to places like Belgium, which is obviously a rich country that doesn't need the grain, but they would take that grain, obviously, in Belgium because that's where the weapons were being loaded on. So, they're not going to go to Africa, then sail empty back to Belgium and load up with weapons. They're going to only go to one place. Now, if you're living in Eastern Europe and in places where you're getting some of this grain, like in Czechoslovakia, you'll know that the grain is tainted. A lot of it's toxic and inedible. People in Czechoslovakia that were getting it to make bread with are saying, holy crap, they're trying to kill us. I know you know what I'm talking about. Well, they're not sending you anything that's any good. Why do they care? They're getting paid either way, and it's really all about moving weapons. And basically, Russia did the right thing. That was a smart move on Putin's part. He said, you know what? We played your game. You wouldn't listen. You kept shipping weapons in through that port. You constantly tried to attack the ships that were trying to protect this route, the Russian ships, the Russian surveillance ships, and many, many times they have now used this grain corridor to basically launch attacks upon Sevastopol, which is Russia's main naval base in that place. Many, many times they have done this in violation of the treaty that allowed this thing to actually happen. So now there will be no grain, or there will be no weapons going in there, and there will be no protection. Now, before I get into the whole idea of the weapons situation over there, I should mention that when it comes to the export of grain and food products, where is Ukraine on the list of how much they export in the world to everyone else? They're like number 7. Ukraine is not the breadbasket of the world. They are not feeding the world. They're number 7. You know who's ahead of them? Amsterdam, the Netherlands, a little tiny country compared to them. Now, who's number 1? Who's the number 1 breadbasket, the number 1 grain exporter of the entire world that's feeding all these poor countries? It's not the USA. Who is it? It's Russia. And they're not just supplying the grain, they're also supplying the fertilizer and everything else. And you know, when everyone said, oh no, if you're not going to let Ukraine ship grain out, people, millions and millions of people are going to starve. And Putin said, oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, you tell me who those people are, and we'll give them as much grain as they need for free. Now, obviously, the EU is not going to do this. So this is all bullshit. This is all greed. It's all bullshit. It's always been bullshit. It's always been about money. And right now, they're beating us at that game. So this PR stunt failed. That's just the one thing. That's significant because if ships start getting sunk, that's a big deal. And if that's how they're getting all the weapons in there, that's a big deal. So the Ukraine thing, it's looking really bad. So what are we doing? How are we trying to get around that? Let me see. Well, you know, the Middle East, Syria. USA is starting to step up the shit in Syria. Why is that happening? Let me see. Okay, well, because the Russians, the Hezbollah, and the Iranians and the Syrian Arab Army are getting really effective. And you know what they're doing? They're not just taking out the insurgents in the north over there in Turkey and pissing off Erdogan. They're also pissing off America because they're doing the same thing on the other end. And of course, you know, you listen to the Americans, they say, oh, the Russians are inhibiting our ability to attack ISIS. Now, never mind that we are ISIS. And never mind that ISIS is actually in Ukraine fighting against the Russians. And we're supporting that. So, again, this is huge bullshit. Now, again, in the United States, of course, you're not hearing the truth, but the rest of the world, they're hearing it. The rest of the world, they're like, oh, my God, you know, hey, Sergey, you know, you're doing pretty good. You guys are kicking their ass. Wow, we're impressed. We want to buy some of those S-400s. You know, that kind of thing. So Putin is not the pariah they're all making him out to be. Russia's not the pariah. They're actually the heroes right now. They're the underdog that gave us a black eye, and these arrogant, elitist bastards in the EU and NATO, they're getting their asses kicked. Now, of course, the latest thing is that Zelensky is saying that, of course, the offensive failed because we had no air support. We couldn't keep those tanks from getting bombed. You know, never mind that the mines is what took out the tanks, but it's true. This whole combined warfare bullshit. You can't have combined warfare tactics if you don't have air support. And the last thing the United States wants to do is fly F-16s in there and get them shot down with the multi-layered air defense systems that Russia's got that we don't have. So now our State Department, our Pentagon people, our, you know, big shots, the NATO types and everyone, they're going, oh, these are great lessons we're learning. Now we know what needs to be built for the future to overcome these obstacles that we're facing on the modern battlefield, yada, yada, bullshit. Anyway, it's pathetic. I just needed to bring that up because, A, this Odessa thing is pretty significant. It's shutting down Odessa. You also have to remember that This is something that could have happened a long time ago. How did he wait for it? Well, think about it for a second. If we were shipping in a good, 10% of our Bradleys, the Germans are shipping in a good portion of their Leopards, the French are shipping in their Martas, the British are shipping in their whatever, I don't know, Chieftains, I think that's American, but whatever. No, Chieftains is British. They don't even want, the shit that the British sent over there, they won't even allow them to take that stuff out in the field because they don't want the pictures of the vaunted British Chieftain tank burning up out there in the field the same way there's all these pictures now of the vaunted Leopard tank burning up in the field out there. And certainly the United States doesn't want pictures of the M1 Abrams out there burning up, and it would burn up just as well, just like the F-16s would, whether they were piloted by Americans, NATO personnel, or highly trained Ukrainians, which they don't have. So it's not looking too good. Anyway, the good news is that we're not really looking at any false flags yet. But I'll tell you, another thing that came up was that Putin was supposed to go to South Africa for the big meeting of the people, the countries that are part of BRICS. There's going to be a big meeting of BRICS in South Africa. And he made the wise decision not to go, to let Sergei Lavrov go in his place, which is okay because that guy's a rock star now. They love him wherever they go. And because we know that these NATO, EU, USA, whatever the combined West, they would have tried to shoot that plane down. It would have been a big problem. So there's no way that would have been okay. Anyway, so that's what's going on. I mean, I don't want to say there's a huge development, except that if you look at history, you look at World War II, and you look at the time it took for the Russians to basically move from Stalingrad through Kursk and all these places, the same places they're fighting today, they're basically doing it in a very similar fashion. And they will continue to roll forward. And I know that people are saying, oh, they're going to go through this, they're going to go through that. But you know what? Hell, Estonia and Latvia and those stupid countries, Lithuania, they're right up next to the damn water. They need to shut the fuck up. Same thing with Poland and all these guys. Now they're trying to talk shit about Belarus and say, oh, well, we got to put a whatever it is, sanctions on the leader of that country now. Why? What did they do besides be friendly with Putin? Anyway, we look really bad. I want to leave it at that. But as far as all this war stuff is concerned, it's kind of like Revelations. It's all bullshit until it happens. And we know better. We know that the thing that's going to happen is the thing that we're doing, our mission, what we're trying to control, what we're trying to force to happen. We know it's going to happen. And the best way to deal with all this other nonsense is to make what we're doing happen first. And that's where you come in. You know, you mama bears and you lions. We need you guys to step up and do it. I mean, seriously, it's like, who else is going to do it? We already know that there's a damn, I don't know, it's like a disease out there. It's like a, I don't know, stupidity thing, a weakness thing, an inability to say what needs to be said. And I'm not talking about bitching about, it's not about drama. It's about saying the things that need to be said that people are afraid to say. You know what needs to be said. You know, it's that thing they don't want you to talk about. So, bottom line, everybody's got to grow a pair. Everybody's got to remember what they are. They're protectors. They're protectors first and then providers. So quit worrying about your fucking paycheck and start acting more like lions and fucking mama bears and not, wage slaves. Can I be any more clear? All right. All right. I just want to remind you guys, speaking of wage slaves, which I'm obviously not a wage slave, but I do live in poverty, but I live better than the average lion, right? Anyway, if you want to help out again, the PayPal is StephenKelley714@yahoo.com, and you have to say friend or family. Otherwise, I do send it back. And again, if you want the book or you want healing or you want information, you need to tell me a story. You got to send that not to that address, but to law17gun@aol.com. That's LAW17GUN@aol.com. All right. And please, I want you to join the group. But when you join the group, don't come in and go, I want to tell me what I need to know. There's tons and tons of files. There's thousands of hours of me talking. Anything that you could need to know, I've already talked about. So please, don't ask us to hand it to you on a silver platter. Do your homework. Again, lions and mama bears. Don't wait for somebody to hand it to you. Anyway, I guess I could depend on you guys in the group, especially you guys in the Occupy the Getty / Stephen D. Kelley group and Telegram. You're all we got right now, at least that I can see. So show me more, and thank you for all the great memes. And if you're in there and you're joining and you're thinking, what can I do? Do what we're doing. Make more noise. Say those things they don't want you to say. Make the memes. Join the groups. Be covert. Be whatever you got to be, but just get out there and do the work and stop being afraid. That's the real key to all this stuff, is your fear level. Okay? Lions and mama bears don't have fear. All right? So stop doing that. All right. I hope I see you guys next week. I hope I see you in the group. My name is Stephen D. Kelley. This is Truth Cat Radio. This is Stephen D. Kelley Show, www.truthcatradio.com. It's still Thursday, July 20th, 2023. It's now 6:47 p.m. Thank you for being with me. We'll get this up for you here pretty soon. In the meantime, just try to tune in to www.truthcatradio.com on Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and you'll hear it live. All right? Okay, guys, do what I told you to do. Okay? Don't disappoint me. Make me proud. I'll talk to you soon. Good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.